Welcome to episode number 9 of the Men and Community podcast. On today's episode, we discuss how robots are taking over the world, Matt explores how artificial intelligence has changed higher education, and Carlo shares a bit of robot-fueled optimism. Thank you for being part of our community.
Well, welcome everybody to the next episode of the Men and Community Mac podcast. I'm Matt. This is Carlo. And we're really excited to be here with you today. Today we're going to go a little bit of a different direction. I think that all the episodes so far we've spent time talking about things that we felt strongly, or we felt equipped to talk about in the sense that we either have experience or background or they're our own stories. And today we're going to go a different direction. We're going to start imagining a future that seems less and less far away.
Shockingly so.
And so we're going to take this little bit of a hypothetical thought experiment and invite you along for the ride with us.
Yeah, and we're going to leave you on a cliffhanger about what the topic of the episode is until after our cards.
After the cards.
Huzzah, I'll draw first card. Who is your worst boss? I don't think any of my bosses are listening to this. Who was my worst boss? I remember I had this one boss who came in, and I'm the kind of person that I love to make myself invaluable at the companies I work at. Okay, I want to be known as the guy that people can come to for almost anything. I will wear all the different hats. I will treat the business like my own, etc., etc. Probably why I ended up becoming a business owner. But I remember this one guy came in, and I don't know if he took a general dislike just to me, or if he thought I should have just stayed in my own lane. But he felt that I was not doing my work good enough, no matter how much else I did. So I really struggled. And this was a long time ago. I was working a retail job, and I was actually working with a girlfriend at the time. And I remember that he treated her so poorly that she quit, and then I just quit right after. Because you can't make her quit and then I'll just stay there. You can't treat her like that, and then I would stay. So don't want to get into specifics on it, but he was just micromanaged me to every little bit, and I can't do that. I know what I need to do. Don't tell me what I need to do.
Yeah, my worst boss was just an absolute master of hypocrisy. Is that the right word? Anyway, I'll tell the story and then you can tell me if that's the right thing.
Sure.
So this would have been years ago. I think I was 17, and it was one of the bosses I had when I worked at day camps. And the first summer that this person was my boss, she was in a relationship with someone else that worked in the organization, not directly on our team, but in somewhere else in the building. And so I remember vividly during training that year, the training would go something like this. I understand that you're all here to have a fun summer and you're here to do your work. Just make sure that, if you end up dating anybody at work, that it's really important that stays outside the workplace and keep that to yourself. That was kind of the rhetoric. And meanwhile, we were working day camps, and she would constantly show up to work with these really short skirts on to work with children. And myself and some of the other supervisors would just be like, what are you doing? And just making poor choices that didn't make sense. And then sometime between that summer and the next summer, her and her boyfriend broke up. And so she shows up to training and she starts bawling in front of all 30 staff. Most of them are between 15 and 18 years old. And she goes on this hour-long rant about how you should never, under any circumstances, date someone that you're working with. And so me and the other supervisors are sitting there like, oh no, this is like watching a train crash, and we can't stop it. We can't put this shit back on the rails. There's nothing to do. And so, that summer I had to do so much cleanup work to essentially mop up after this manager, and the cherry on top was She left within that next year. I applied for her job. And I remember in the interview, it was a brand new management team at the time, but I remember in that interview, the people that interviewed me held up this letter that she had written about me, basically trying to condemn me from any sort of growth within the organization. And they're like, so we're confused because everyone else that we've talked to in this organization loves you except this. I'm like, what is that? Anyways, so she tried to like absolutely kibosh my ability to get a job, but yeah, I ended up staying with that organization another 6 years, so it obviously wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it was hypocrisy.
Unreal.
Terrible. Draw your card.
All right, drawing my
Oh no.
What's your personal hell?
Oh.
What a card. What's my personal hell? Okay, so I think my personal hell would be a place where people are very ignorant, where people have no sort of awareness of what's going on around them, either socially or physically. Some people that are just spatially unaware drive me nuts as well. And my personal hell would be somewhere with no good food, particularly no eggs, because eggs are like my single staple food that I can't survive without. So ignorant people, no eggs. That would be my personal hell.
Okay. Short answer, elementary school.
Uh-oh.
I hated elementary school. I got bullied so bad, and most of the people that were there were kind of what you were describing, where it was just like, and I get that we're all kids, but like just that closed-minded, not willing to talk about anything, not willing to be your friend because whatever thing about you they don't like, etc., etc. But yeah, elementary school was my hell. So put me back there and I'd probably become the crying kid again. Yeah.
Elementary school, what a ride. I don't think I liked elementary school that much, and the reason why I say I don't remember much of it.
Okay.
So I think that there's some level of like
Blocking it out.
repressed memory
Yeah.
there somewhere, but yeah. Oh boy, what a time.
It's okay. Junior high was a good time, and high school was a good time. So
Yeah.
that's fine. Elementary can live in the past.
That's true. If you're peaking in grade 5, grade 6, then there's a problem. So you'd rather...
I think if you're peaking at any point in just your grade school career, you've got some concerns.
True.
Yeah.
Very, very true.
Nobody feel attacked. Nobody feel attacked.
Yeah.
All right. So this is kind of your topic, but it's super interesting to me because it is something that not in specific I have a lot of experience with, but as a whole, the general surrounding idea of it, I'm pretty well versed in. So introduce the topic to us.
Okay, so we're hearing a lot right now about these monumental advancements in AI, artificial intelligence. We think about ChatGPT as kind of the most common buzz word in terms of platforms, AI platforms that are becoming more and more readily accessible. But of course, there's infinite others, right? There are the ones where you can type in a prompt and it creates an image or a piece of art for you. You can brainstorm anything. People, academics are starting to be concerned about students using AIs to write papers and things of this nature. And I even saw a story, don't know how true it is, but a story about how an AI was given an assignment and proceeded to pay somebody to complete a CAPTCHA to circumvent some sort of a security platform that's designed to keep out bots, right? So the AIs are getting smart enough to circumvent the security measures that are designed to prevent exactly that. And that starts to get scary, right? The Matrix was 20 years ago that the Matrix movies came out, something like that. And all of a sudden we start to actually realistically envision a world where the machines are taking over. And not that they're taking over, obviously, that's very dramatic, but it's creating a new technology platform that I think that as a general society we're very, very unaware of the potential implications it could have, in the same way that we didn't really understand what implications the internet had 25 years ago. And so I guess what I'm really interested in batting around as a hypothetical experiment is, what is this movement towards AI? What impact is this going to have on the way that we think about communities?
Mm-hmm.
How is this going to affect the way that we live our lives, and therefore the way that we interact with people or interact with groups of people? What is this going to do? So I guess where I'd love to start, and this is where I'd love to have you kind of jump in and take off, because you've taught me a lot of the things that I know, that the little that I know about this is, what is, maybe kind of the foundation of AI, or at least where AI technology is now. What are some of the general kind of uses or reasons for AI, and maybe where you see AI going, and kind of where you see those tentacles diving down.
Sure.
And maybe we kind of go from there.
Sure. And I'm going to go ahead and say that I am by no means an expert on AI. Okay, I'm not a programmer, I'm not any of that, but I do have a very good general working knowledge in technology. A lot of my professional experience is in technology. So take it with a grain of salt, whatever I say. Now, to me, AI is such an interesting thing, and you talked about the matrix there, and I think I even said this to you when I introduced you to ChatGPT, because I came over like super excited with my laptop to show you how it worked. And it was this idea that like we all have seen, the concept of the matrix, where the world is run by computers, whether it be post-apocalyptic or just run by computers, and the Wall-E syndrome, where we all sit around on floating chairs and get really fat. Where the other side of it is kind of where we were 20 years ago, where like AI was, that Honda robot that walked, a couple steps and then fell over, right? But no one ever really talks about the middle point that we kind of are right now, or at the precipice of, where AI is essentially the cumulative human knowledge made into an accessible form. That's where I think we kind of are now, and how I would describe AI. So think about it like this. I used to ask my dad, or I used to use this story all the time, but I remember asking my dad one time, I said, hey Dad, if I were to say to you, 40 years ago, that one day you would have a device in your pocket that would literally give you each and every piece of human knowledge, music, art, experience you possibly wanted, on a device that sat in your pocket and you had access to it at all times. He goes, I would have thought you were crazy. I would have thought you were talking like about the tricorder on Star Trek or something like that, because my dad was a Star Trek and Star Wars nerd. And he's like, I would have thought you were crazy. So now we think about it behind this idea of, well, literally we have every single piece of human knowledge available, but you don't even need to know how to find it. You just need to know how to ask for it. So when you hear about things like AI, a lot of what you'll hear alongside of it is what's called prompt engineering. So a prompt, of course, is the question that you ask this AI, and the engineering is knowing how to speak that AI's language and ask it a question in a way that it knows how to answer you and give you exactly what you're looking for. So right now, you still need to have this idea of, how do I ask the proper question? So I think within the next year and a half, we're already seeing it with the new versions of ChatGPT, is that you don't even have to know really in specific how to ask the question. You can use natural human language, and that computer has figured out how to convert that to something it understands, right? So it's both an exciting time to think about, I have literally every piece of knowledge I could ever want at my fingertips made accessible to me in a way I can understand. And it's also kind of a scary prospect, because we used to have to seek out knowledge from people that knew it, right? And then it became you have to seek out knowledge from people who knew it, who made it available, on the World Wide Web. Now you don't even have to do that. You don't need the cumulative human experience to get the knowledge. You just need to know how to ask a computer to find the human experience and give it to you. That to me is the thing, when we think about our podcast as men in community, is the part of disconnect for the community.
So do you think that this then has implications, and I really like the way you position this. I've never thought about it as AI being a more accessible vehicle for receiving the accumulation of human knowledge. I think that's really, really interesting. So do you think then that this path we're on and AIs, do you think that this is signaling the end of the accumulation of human knowledge? Like, do you think that human knowledge has been done, and do you think that the rest of the work now comes on the backs of these CPUs that are now going to take the reins and start to develop technology and cycle things up that way?
No, because you got to think, like, one of the coolest stories I think is that the Apollo lander, so the lander that they used to land on the moon for the first time, had less than 10% the processing power a flip phone did. But it was still able to land on the moon. Now, of course, someone had to design it and program it and test it and be there when things went wrong and all those kinds of things. But as time went by and we started using computers to do these mass amounts of thinking for us, it just collapsed time frames. So I think that's all this is going to do, is we're going to see a massive amount of people pop out new ideas and new products and new ways of thinking that were assisted by AI. Because instead of having to go to school for 4 years to learn a technical ability like programming, you can go into AI and say, I want to build an app that does this, 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 and this, and it will write that code for you, right? So we've basically just made it so that anybody that has an idea can figure out how to implement that idea without specialized training. So no, it's not going to start thinking for us. Okay? I don't think there is going to be a point, at least for the near future, where the next great scientific discovery was done entirely by an AI. It will be done by a person who knows how to direct that AI in the appropriate way, though.
So, and let me preface this by saying that this is going to be an interesting... I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on this next question, because you and I have very different experiences and ways that we value what I'm about to ask you about. So, how do you think then this changes the construct of formal education? Because right now, the way that we go to school, and you go to school when you're 5 years old, from the time that you're 5 to you're 17 or 18, you're being taught this fundamental curriculum of things that some group of people has decided that we need to know. Math, literacy, some level of physical education, hopefully, some type of history or social studies education, right? So all of these things are rooted in some level of knowledge, and the hope is that as we teach children these things in this formal setting, that they will then also by proxy accumulate some of these social skills, right? We have kids in the classroom from a societal, practical standpoint to, socialize them, but also as childcare, so their parents can go and be contributing members of the economy. But there's also the social benefits of it while they learn this structured, formulaic knowledge. And then, you decide, if you decide to carry on and do formal post-secondary education, you're theoretically further specializing in a certain set of skills to be able to join the hamster wheel, if you will, and contribute in some sort of a specialized way to the economy or the society or the community that you're in. And what I'm hearing you saying is that AI is shortening the conversion time from an idea. So no longer do I have to say, I want to be able to save people. I have this idea. Let me go get a medical degree or a business degree or any of these things. I solely can have an idea, and the conversion time is changing drastically. So what do you think the implications are on formal education with AI? And just, from the standpoint of these being key institutions that we use to socialize people?
I think that's a really great question. And I think why you preface this by saying it's going to be interesting to hear each of our responses is because you have much more formal education than I do, right? You have your master's. I do not. I did not do any post-secondary education. I went on to challenge my courses for my professional certifications, and some of the other industries I work in are kind of self-taught. They're not taught at school kind of stuff. So my stance on formal education has always been that I believe there is almost nothing better than education. But I don't believe in the institution of education. Now, what do I mean by that? And maybe this will also answer your question. I believe that the institution of education is set up in a way that is designed to fail you. Okay? And it is the metric of how often you do not fail that will allow them to grade you. Okay? So think about it like this. You spend, however long in this class learning the concepts of whatever you're learning, and then at the end you take a test. And that test is supposed to measure how well you recall this knowledge that you've accumulated. Okay? Where I think formal education will change is, instead of being tested on how well you retained that knowledge, it will be how well can you apply that knowledge in conjunction with an AI assistant. Okay? So, like I said, AI is just but a tool to allow you to implement your ideas faster. But you still need to know the foundational core of whatever you're thinking about. So I think the world of testing will go away. The world of writing an essay will go away. I think we're going to see a lot of projects. It's going to be a lot of, here's a concept that we've taught you. Here's a problem that exists. Solve that problem using what we've taught you and AI. Right? And I'm really excited for that, because now, instead of a class pumping out 60 to 100 essays, a class will pump out 60 to 100 problems solved. Right? That could now be used to further that academic approach. That now could be used to solve an actual worldwide problem. Can you imagine if every university student that was learning medicine cumulatively worked on 1% of cancer? How quickly we would solve that problem if we gave them the cumulative of medical knowledge and they just need to learn how to ask the right questions.
Wow.
Right? So in my mind, when you ask that idea of social impact, to me, even a group project, the limited experience I have in group projects, would pale in comparison to the community and growth as a group you would feel by making the world a better place because you worked on ideas together.
Wow. That's really, really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that for any of you listening that are teachers, whether it's teachers at a elementary, high school, or your professors at a university level perhaps, you're probably absolutely terrified hearing that vision. And I think what's worth maybe me providing a little bit of insight or thoughts, I guess, into is this isn't going to happen overnight.
No.
But I think that so often institutionalized communities, this is education as kind of a starting point. Institutionalized communities are very quick to push back against fast change, fast cultural change, technological or otherwise, because any sort of fast cultural change is going to completely force the systems that they exist within to change. You're hearing it already. You're hearing universities push back against the use of AI. You're finding professors that are scrambling to try to figure out how to ban AI in their classrooms or in their lectures. You're seeing these AIs and counter AIs come up where you're having tools being coded that are being employed to try and decide if the essay being written was done using AI and therefore would be academic misconduct.
And I will say rightfully so, because any student that thinks he can type the essay assignment into ChatGPT and then hand in what this outputs is missing the point of education and missing the point of AI.
Right.
Right? They're cheating. They are totally cheating.
And in the short term, so your vision, you have me totally enamored by your vision for the future of education, but the short and maybe even medium term of this has really, really dangerous implications because, you know, the world as it exists today is very much seeking these quick wins. We're seeking instant gratification. We're looking for the quick ways. And I think in spite of all of the beautiful things that you're saying about the capacity of AI and the potential that we have to use AI to further the human experience, I think what we're seeing is that people are using it as a quick way out, a way to cheat the system, a way to get things done faster, which in the short to medium term is going to seriously degrade a lot of systems that aren't quick enough to respond, right? You're going to have people in law school who are using AI to expedite the completion of law degrees, and presumably some of them will get past their bar interviews and then become practicing lawyers. Well, and then what then? You know, you have AIs that have this cumulative knowledge of the legal system. However, do you have lawyers that have the dedication, the means, the care to be able to provide that sort of legal service? Do lawyers therefore basically just become glorified paralegals because the legal system is contained within AI, and no longer do you really need a lawyer per se? You just need somebody to be able to put two and two together and be able to understand how that goes. I just think that what I worry about, and I think we're kind of shifting into the impact of on communities, what I worry about with AI is that that messy middle, if you will, this like interim where the technology is outpacing the societal system's ability to integrate it. And that's kind of what I worry about. And so then you're going to have big institutions, be it universities or unions or whatever the case, that push back against the advancements, and maybe they succeed in stifling the advancements depending on their lobbying ability, and that holds us in this suspended animation of this messy middle, right? Because if you've got these powerful institutions fighting back against change, managing to slow the change up, then you allow this to perpetuate where these people are using the systems as they exist to hopefully get a little bit ahead, a little bit further along. So at a community level now, where do you think this takes us?
Well, I do want to say one thing before we move on to that. I think that the educational systems that will come out ahead in this messy middle that you're talking about are the ones that do not spend their time, effort, and money on fighting back, but spend their time, effort, and money on learning how to leverage these technologies to better educate their students. The ones that say, screw it, let's go. Let's figure it out. They will be the ones that produce the world changers. And we live in a world today where you do not need to live in that university city to take that course. So I have a feeling you're going to watch a university. It'll be the most obscure university out of the littlest country in the middle of the world that pops out a course about law that is taught in conjunction with AI, and it will become the world's best law degree.
See, but here's the thing, and again, this is so just beautifully visioned on your part, and you're going to wind up with this because academic prestige is a real thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
People, there's prestige in being able to say, I went to Yale, Harvard, Cornell, Columbia, Stanford, right? The Ivy League is the Ivy League for a reason, and a lot of times people get hired not because of what they did when they were at the university, but what the name of the institution on the piece of paper, the degree that you have is. Those are the institutions that I'm worried about. They're not the ones that are going to do what you're suggesting, because you're right. It is going to be some small Lithuanian techno college polytechnica thing that decides that it's going to revolutionize education. The problem is, though, is that, again, there has to be that translation into being able to make an economic impact, and it could be the best education program in the world, and I'm going to look at someone who's got a law degree from Lithuania Polytechnic, and I'm going to say, like, okay, get out of my face, right? If my option is hiring against, Yale, Harvard, Cornell. So this presents some problems because those big institutions are the ones that are going to fight back the hardest. And so the distance that we have to go to reach this critical mass where these smaller universities band together to create an organization with enough sway to fight back against these things, it's going to take a long time.
It sure will, but here's the thing, it won't matter. Because you can have a student who went to an Ivy League university and has a fantastic education and becomes a great lawyer and gets hired at the prestigious law firm because their dad also went to Harvard with that owner's dad. Because really, Ivy League universities are just communities with perks.
Certainly.
Okay? And he'll lose a case to a guy who went to the Lithuanian university. Because the research that took Harvard guy 36 hours took Lithuanian guy 2. So they can fight it all they want. But the proof is in the pudding. And I know that we clung to law for some reason, but this is everything. It doesn't matter where you got that education, whether it was a teacher or an AI, whether it was a $40,000 a semester or a $4,000 a semester tuition. It doesn't matter. It's who produces the better product and outcome. And when you have the cumulative of human knowledge at your fingertips instantaneously, you will have the better outcome if you're smart, if you're willing to learn. And I don't want to cling to this topic too long because I want to talk about this idea of community because we could talk about this all day. I love this topic. And I am myself simply but scratching the surface of what AI means to me in my endeavors. So we could talk about this forever. But let's talk about community. I think for me, the one scary thing about AI is not in the knowledge that it has. It is in the products it will produce to take advantage of human nature. Okay? So what do I mean by that? Well, look at social media. Social media started as something that fostered community, right? It was a way to stay in touch, share life events, all those kinds of things. Nowadays, what has social media turned into? Social media has turned into a way to promote a product or a podcast, right? I'm fully aware of that. It turned into a way to promote a highlight reel of your life. It is turned into a way to still foster some sorts of community, but that community, if not the right intention behind it, can be a little bit more harmful. Right? You can look at things like pornography and all of the clinically proven problems that it has on some people. Right? You can look at misinformation. You can look at all sorts of things that our internet age has produced. The dopamine rush, the short attention spans that we have, all sorts of things. Are there good things that have come out of the technology of social media and internet? Absolutely. You cannot argue that. But there are bad things that have come too. So with this cumulative human knowledge available at the fingertips of anybody right now for free, that means it is accessible to everybody, including those that their primary wish is either to make as much money as possible regardless of the outcome, or even to cause harm. That is the scary thing to me. And I keep thinking about an episode of Futurama where Fry downloads a girlfriend into a blank robot body. And then there's, a really cheesy old informational video that they play about why you shouldn't have a robot girlfriend. Okay? And it's possible that could be a thing. That we have an AI generated social life and we no longer need the people around us, because I come to that AI with a problem and an emotion I feel, and it tells me not what I need to hear, not what I need to grow and become better, but it tells me purely what I want to hear. That is the scary thing to me. Right? Swipe your credit card for $5.99. I will tell you how your boss was the wrong one and not you. No opportunity for growth. No opportunity to acknowledge your shortcomings. No opportunity to try and make yourself better. Purely tell me what I want to hear so I can feel vindicated and validated. That is the scary thing to me. And like all technologies and all things in life, you will have those that use them for good and growth, and you will have those that use them for bad and profit.
I'm just trying to absorb everything that you just said.
As you can tell, I've thought a lot about this.
Yeah. What I'm hearing, what I'm feeling, what I'm the inclination that I'm getting, we wanted to talk about the impacts or the hypothetical impact that AI is having, could potentially have on communities. And what I'm feeling and hearing and sensing now is that really what we need to be doing is not banding together against the machines, not trying to stop the progress on AI, but rather just to double down on these aspects of community. And I know that in every episode we kind of talk about community a little bit differently, but to me, I'm thinking about human to human contact. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about those people in our life in whatever capacity they are, but just the people as they exist and how we can actually really, really build our relationships and our connections to them. Because in a world where we no longer need to know things, we don't need to have the history of the Cold War or the knowledge of how ancient Rome was built. These aren't things that we need to know anymore. Instead, what becomes more important is, and you kept coming back to this idea that more and more we're getting to this place where people just need to be able to generate ideas and ask good questions. And the way that you generate ideas and learn to ask good questions is by being around human beings and by being curious and wondering about things that are going on around you. And I think that when we double down on these, what we think of as soft skills in air quotations, things like communication skills, problem solving, creativity, empathy, resiliency, when we focus on these things first, that's what's going to allow us to then progress as people, as communities. And we get that by participating with other people.
Yeah.
We get that by putting ourselves in a position to wonder, to be curious, to get to know other people, to take those connections, those relationships, and build them around common interests or groups of people. But that's what's going to allow us to continue to be relevant in a place where we don't necessarily need to be valued for the hard knowledge that we have, but rather our ability to exist in an atmosphere or a group of people.
Yeah. Honestly, I think you're going to see a reimagining of kind of that old term idea of the salesperson, right? Because if you think back to the early 1900s, salespeople did not have a negative connotation to them that sometimes they have now. The salesperson was the person you went to when you had a problem, and they helped you solve it. They were a pillar of the community because they knew all the people. You went to your, this sales guy because he knew the other sales guy that would help you solve the problem. So I think you're going to see how am I not wording this right? You're going to see that reinvented into the guy that knows AI better than everyone else. I have a problem. I don't know how to ask my AI to help me solve it. And they will help you. So you're going to see new pillars of community. You're going to see new, almost like think tanks of groups of people that come together that bring different skill sets of how to utilize not only the new knowledge they need, but the knowledge they are accumulating together. Right? You're going to see these people come together. You are always going to have the outlier that believes he can do it on his own. But when you bring all of these people together into a community that can talk through the idea, figure out how to implement it, because there still has to be the human component, right? Because only a human will truly understand how a new idea or product will impact a human's life. There still has to be that. So it's going to take that group of people working together to actually implement it and actually bring it out in a way that is impactful. So to me, I'm really, really excited. I know personally, I already have several groups of people that I've been working on various projects with that AI is helping us do things that we never could before. We've used AI generating some of our podcast images.
And episode ideas.
Some episode ideas, descriptions, right? We've used it already to help just smooth out processes for ourselves. And that to me is just really, really exciting. So I'm not scared of it. I'm not worried about it. I'm purely excited. And I think if anything, we as the people have to maintain the freedom that AI has given us. We can't let it become just another thing that our governments and our corporations want to take a hold of. Now, I totally understand that, OpenAI is owned by Microsoft and this company and that company. Totally get it. It's already owned by some mega corporations. But if we can really hold on to AI as the liberator of human knowledge for the people, the things that we will create are going to be astounding.
And I think one final thought that I have, and then maybe we can start bringing this episode to a close, is I think the reason why you're not scared, and thanks to this conversation I'm becoming less scared, is because you and I value things that are difficult. We value a challenge. We value the pride that comes along with defeating the dragon, if you will, right? Like we appreciate, right? We appreciate enduring something challenging, coming out the other side, being some whatever level of successful, and then learning from it, and then taking on the next one, right? And I think what I've heard you say a lot today is that one of the fears is that this is used to prevent things from being hard. And so one thing that I just want to leave with anybody who's listening to this is, yes, AI is going to continue to provide us with opportunities to expand the capabilities that we as a human race have to be able to grow and develop into the future. But I think that we all need to remind ourselves the value of things being difficult. And just because we have AI and that AI can make things easier, that we need to learn to love the hard stuff. And I think that's going to allow us to have a healthy relationship with things like AI into the future.
I think it's also going to allow us to spend more of our energy and time on the harder, more impactful problems, right? You know, that to me is what I think is really cool. I think as a human race, we will be able to elevate ourselves faster and easier. So it's not that life will be easier, it's that the more trivial problems will be easier so that we can focus on the more impactful ones.
That's a really good point. So what's your one takeaway?
My one takeaway?
Or the thing that you want to leave everybody with, your giveaway.
My giveaway takeaway. The thing that I want to leave everybody with is that everything new is scary. But that goes the same for almost every episode we've ever talked about, every topic we've had. You know, joining a new community, meeting new people, overcoming an obstacle. You know, everything of value is scary. And you can have your apprehensions about it. And we don't know where this whole thing is going to lead us. But I think, like everything else, if you stand up to the challenge and give it your best, you're more likely to be happy with the outcome, whether the outcome was good or bad.
I love that. Absolutely love that. I think that the thing that I find myself feeling really grateful for you today, I consider myself a super optimistic person. And then I think about the future and I get absolutely terrified because there's so many things to be afraid of in the future. It's easier to be optimistic here and now. And you've just done this beautiful job today of renewing my sense of optimism about what the future can look like amidst all of the changes and developments and evolutions that we're seeing unfold around us. And I'm feeling really, really, really thankful that you've shared that optimism with me today.
Well, thank you. My sense of gratitude, I think, comes from your willingness to explore the ideas that we talk about, right? It's so easy to close ourselves behind certain closets of fear and apprehension. But I think this is something that both you and I share, is we're willing to admit that we don't know what we don't know and expose ourselves to new information. So I'm happy that you gave me the opportunity to share that optimism with you, to share some of the ideas I've had with you, and that you're going to now, I know, take that back and think it through and change, even just a little bit how you may or may not feel about this topic and all the topics we discuss. So, I'm very thankful for the open-mindedness and the willingness to learn that you and I both share. All right, guys, so a little bit of a different episode, probably one of my more favorite ones. This has been cool. I like this. We want to hear what you guys think about AI. We want you to actually go back and look at all of our images for all of our episodes. Did you know they were AI generated? Did you even look at them? Share your feedback. Is it something you're afraid of, or did we open your eyes a little bit and make you go, maybe I should check that out. Maybe it will help me figure out that idea that I had. We want to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And whatever that means for you, whether it's commenting on a social media post or leaving us a review on any of your podcast platforms, let us know how you're interacting with our content. And then, what's one thing that you've done differently or you've thought about differently as a result of hearing some of the things we've talked about.
Absolutely. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for your time. We're glad to have you joining us. For all of our regulars, you guys are great. We love you. For anybody that's new that's found us, we're excited to have you here. Share with us how you found us.
And we'll love you eventually.
We'll probably love you right away.
A few more episodes and then we'll love you. Don't give it away so fast.
Yeah, thanks guys. Please follow us on all of your favorite social media platforms. Interact with us. If you listen to us on our audio platforms, whether that be Apple Music or Spotify or TuneIn or wherever else you found us, please leave a comment and a review. And if it's on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. We're everywhere.
All right, take care, everyone.
Bye.